Hey guys, so I had someone asking me questions on Instagram about things that you need and care instructions for getting your first reborn, so I thought I'd make a video about it because it'd be a lot easier and then it would help some other people too. So you're looking at Hazel, who is the Lexi kit by Sandra White. She was my first ever reborn and she recently has rejoined my collection, and I'm so happy to have her back. I know she's not very well painted and whatever, but she's very special to me, so I figured I would show her that it was appropriate for this video. And she's wearing an outfit and laying on a blanket from her Auntie Carrie, because Auntie loves her. So, one of the first things you gotta think about if you're getting reborn is where are you going to store them? Because you've got to think about keeping their paint looking nice and them not getting harmed or falling or anything like that. So make sure wherever you're going to store them, it is away from where your pets and children or anything that could possibly cause any harm. You know, you want to be away from all that stuff. Something you also have to think about is sunlight. You don't want to put them in direct sunlight, or you're going to fade the paint. Make sure it's not an area that's damp or wet or anything like that. What I used to do when I only had 2 babies, which now I have, oh god, who knows, more than 10. I used to keep them in a plastic container underneath my bed. So what I would do is I would put them in a sleeper. Let me just grab one. Say put them in a sleeper, something like that. Preferably something with mitts built in or add mitts to it. And a hat, and sometimes even fold it down over their face like that. And then swaddle them up in a blanket. And including covering their faces, kind of like how a lot of times they're presented in box openings. And then put them in the box. That way their paint isn't going to be rubbing, like I had 2 in the same box, so you don't want them touching each other, like the vinyl rubbing against each other. You wouldn't want it rubbing against the container or dust or anything to get to them. Now, most of my babies are stored out in the open because I live by myself. I just have the one cat, and she's an older cat, and I know what things she will and won't get into, and she will not mess with things like this. So I have them on a metal shelf, and there's Jigsaw up over there. I've got one in a little cradle and one in a hammock. If you're putting them on a type of shelf, I would highly, highly recommend that you line it with blankets. So again, that nothing's going to hurt the paint or their vinyl. Just, you know, that's the big thing. You got to make sure that nothing's going to damage them. Like this cradle here, I got this at a thrift store, and it's like a doll cradle. It's got black paint that's kind of peeling off, so I just covered it up with a blanket so that paint won't transfer onto little Prudence or anything like that, and so the wood won't scratch her or anything. So number 1, you gotta decide where are you going to store them that's going to be safe from the elements, from other people, from animals, all that fun stuff. And I mentioned wrapping up in blankets. Blankets, I have tons of them because they're good to keep them protected. You know, lining things, wrapping them in it. And I mean, of course you're going to want it for role playing and cuddling and all that fun stuff. Clothing, of course. Now, you got to be careful with dark colors. Deep, dark, rich colors in clothing can stain the vinyl. So, I mean, if you want to be extra careful, just avoid them altogether. Or you can try washing them. Now, I wash all of my clothes and the baby's clothes with borax, and I use Arm & Hammer detergent that's sensitive skin. It's like dye-free, scent-free, and all that fun stuff, instead of buying the really expensive like baby detergent. It's not necessary. So I will machine wash their clothes in that borax and a fragrance-free, dye-free, gentle detergent. And depending on whether or not I'm worried about the item shrinking, like if it's just the right size to fit the baby, do not put it in the dryer. You want to hang that to dry. But if maybe you want it to shrink, then you can dry it. Just make sure it's on delicate. And the washing will help keep the colors from bleeding onto the vinyl, which is always a good thing. We don't need that happening. And the same thing with blankets. If you've got dark colored blankets, the colors could possibly bleed, so make sure you wash those too, if they are washable. You know, read all your tags on them and follow the directions. If it says that you can't machine wash it, then try hand washing, but you got to be really careful with dark colors. Diapers. Now I am currently switching from disposable diapers to cloth diapers because this is a disposable diaper. This is, oh gosh, I can't remember. It's one from Target. I remember that. This is newborn size. But I had an issue happen where a friend's baby was sent to me for repairs, and he'd had an Honest diaper on, and this sticky stuff got on his legs, and it actually, when I tried to wipe the sticky stuff off, his paint came with it. So I am very wary about disposable diapers now. I mean, I've never had trouble with any of my babies, but I've seen it happen with other people, so I'm not taking any chances. Especially if your baby's got full legs and the diaper's going to come in contact with the vinyl, or if they're full body or anything like that. Oh, the 3/4 limbs I don't really worry so much about because it's touching the cloth and not the vinyl. So I make my own cloth diapers. This is a teeny tiny one that Prudence normally wears. But if you're going to use cloth, it's the same as the clothes. You got to make sure with the dark colors that it's washed and it's not going to bleed, or you're going to have a bad time. Another thing that's good to have with the whole colors bleeding issue is white onesies. So this is just like a white shirt and just a regular white onesie. This one's long sleeve. These are great to have on your Reborn at all times. Again, everything is about protecting the paint and the vinyl and keeping a baby looking nice. So this will help with that, especially if you've got dark colors on them. Then the dark colored fabric won't be touching them. The white will. And also, it just kind of makes outfits look neater. So you can't see the cloth body, so also it kind of helps keep the realism factor. And I use this a lot with, see Adrian up there on the left. He's an old Behringer, so he's 1/4 limbs. So he's always wearing a long sleeve white onesie, so then I can put t-shirts and tank tops and such on him and his cloth will not show. So it's just something to think about if you have maybe limbs like that. Like, say Hazel here is 3/4 limbs. If I just kept a white onesie underneath her, I could put sleeveless and such on her, and it wouldn't show the cloth. Just something to think about. Oh, I had notes on my phone, and my phone went to sleep. Now, if the Reborn you're getting has hair, which Hazel does underneath, some crazy hair probably going on under here, but if they're going to have rooted hair, make sure you find out what kind of hair is it. Is it synthetic hair? Is it human hair? Is it mohair? And you're going to want to have a comb and brush. Now you can get a comb and brush set just like this at most dollar stores. They're easy to find. You want to make sure it's a baby one so the bristles are super soft like this. But what also works very well is a toothbrush. I got a little kid's one just for the cuteness factor of it. A soft toothbrush, really soft bristles. You can read on the package, it'll say soft. It'll say soft, medium, or hard for the bristles, and you want soft. So you can use that as a hairbrush as well, especially for the tinier babies, and if you've got a baby who has directionally rooted hair and you want to comb their swirl correctly, that works really well because it's smaller and so you can get more precise. And most if you've got mohair or synthetic hair, usually watered down fabric softener works really nice for hair conditioner. So this is probably only, I probably only filled it up to down there with fabric softener, and the rest is water. Again, get one that's, this one has dye in it, but I've never had any trouble, but preferably one that's got no dye. Fragrance is probably okay as long as you yourself aren't allergic to fragrance. I also use this kids detangling spray. This is good if you have human hair, babies with longer hair, so that you can comb out the knots and such. And this is apple scented, so it works wonderful for Apple because then he smells like apples. And also, for your human hair and your mohair, this coconut oil spray works really nice as well. Makes the hair smell good and is really, really soft. I've gotten quite a few babies who are used, and I've had to deep condition their hair. So what I normally do for that, just a quick rundown in case you're curious, is take fabric softener that's still watered down but stronger than this, and just soak their hair in it, just completely drench their hair in it, and leave it for at least 5 to 10 minutes, maybe longer if you have the time, and then rinse it out and comb their hair out. And if it doesn't work for that one time, then you can soak it again and again. Sometimes even, I know for synthetic hair on dolls that you could leave it in for several hours and then try combing it out and rinsing it. But I found that that works extremely well, even for Zulu, who has human hair, that the fabric softener works really nicely. And then I just used the coconut oil to brush it through when it was all dry and done. And now it's super soft instead of all crunchy and dry. Oh, why does my phone keep shutting off when I'm trying to talk? And I apologize about my camera shaking. I have shaky hands. Oh, let's see what else have I done here. Now, you can use baby powder. I don't really use it very often, though, geez, I have a huge one here. A lot of people like to put a little bit in the diapers just for the smell, but be very careful about putting it on their vinyl for ruining the paint. Now, every so often, probably only a few times a year maximum, you're going to want to dust your Reborn, because they're going to get dust in the little cracks and crevices, and they can get oils from your skin on them, and that can eat away at the paint. So what I recommend, I'm not saying that what other people say is wrong, but this is what I recommend and what I do. I use water wipes. You can buy these at Target. They're like $3 and something for a package of 60 wipes. Because regular baby wipes concern me. See, I'm extra duper careful about everything. Because of the chemicals in them, I don't want the paint to come off. But these are nothing but water and fruit extract. I've never had any trouble with paint coming off of a doll who was sealed properly if I use these. But if you want to go the easier, cheaper route, you can also just, I got this one at a dollar store, get a baby towel or a microfiber hand towel and just dampen it with water. Maybe with the tiniest bit of baby shampoo, something like this. Johnson's head to toe. Just the tiniest little bit in a lot of water on one of these, like a very soft cloth, and you can wipe them down with that instead. And that's just to get like the general bigger areas, and then use something like Q-tips are very good for getting into like the creases, like in the eye and in the nose, the lips, between fingers and toes, places like that. You can get in with a damp Q-tip to get the dust out. Now, the first time I ever dusted a Reborn, it was Hazel here, and her paint is very likely not sealed properly because when I went to use a Q-tip inside her ears, most of the paint came off. That should not happen. If that happens, you better be contacting the artist to get it touched up because that should not be happening. Now, a lot of things I wish I knew when I first got Reborns were that I was going to have to do repairs on them myself. If you do not want to do repairs on them yourself, you're going to have a hard time, and you're going to have to send your babies out. And I hate to send my babies out to get things done, so I'd rather just, do things myself. Oh, I got all kinds of goodies over here. I'll just turn over this way. Now, learning how to make pacifiers is awesome. I have a video about that on my channel. I'll probably make another one that's a little bit more detailed. But if your baby has a magnet, then to make magnetic pacifiers you will need these. I buy these at Home Depot. Super magnets, neodymium disc magnets, and I find that this size, what is it? 0.3 inch by 0.11 inch, 8 millimeter by 3 millimeter size. These little round discs are a good size to use. You of course cut the nipple off and glue them onto a pacifier. And I cover them with felt, again, protect the paint, that's what it's all about. But if your baby does not have a magnet, say if they can take a full pacifier, then you just stick a full pacifier in, nothing you need to do. Modified ones might be kind of trial and error. Maybe go to the dollar store and get some cheapy pacifiers and try cutting them until you find what way fits, or you could always ask the person that you're buying the doll from what way they can take a pacifier. I make my pacifiers using hot glue because it sets quickly, it stays on, but then if I want to take the magnet off or if I need to flip the magnet, it comes off really easily as well. If something happens, say if you've got a baby that has eyes, that has open eyes, and the eye comes out of place, or their magnet comes out of place, if their hair isn't sealed properly or needs to be resealed, having glue is a lifesaver. Now for most stuff it's really good to use E6000 because this is super permanent, industrial strength, great stuff, but it smells really strong and chemicals and I don't really like to use it very often. So more often than not I use this Gem Tack permanent glue. This is the kind of glue that you can get at craft stores, Walmart, whatever. It's the stuff that's used to glue rhinestones and such onto clothes. That will work just as well. I'll do a video on reweighting and repairing babies more in depth. It's also a good idea to have cable ties, unless your baby has a body where their limbs and head are held on with string ties. It's probably cable ties. So I get these from Bountiful Baby usually because they're the only ones who have the small size, because they have to be really skinny, and usually most stores don't carry cable ties this skinny. And you're going to want scissors or some type of clippers to cut them. I find something like this works really well. My cat has come to visit, so you might hear her. To get in and not cut the body. You may need to reweight them and such, so having polyfill, the pillow fluff is a good idea. And these are poly pellets. Like, if you've ever had Beanie Babies, it's the beans that are inside Beanie Babies for weighting material, if you need to adjust their weighting at all. And always put it inside something so they're not just loose hanging around in the body. So you get stockings is what I use. Now these you can buy, I bought these at Walmart for like $5 for 10 pairs. So that's 20 stockings. You probably won't need that many, but it's always nice to have. Let me see what else is on my list. I mean, most things with reborns are optional, and it's totally up to you and what you're going to do with your baby. Like, I'm not one who uses bottles very often, but if that's something, if you want to do feeding videos and your baby can take a bottle and whatever. There's Lucy. Kitty. Trying to get in the baby blankets, I know. Geez, now I just forgot what I was talking about because I'm distracted by her. Bottles. Yeah. Now, I have never made fake bottles or sealed them, but there are plenty of videos if you look up on YouTube showing you how to do that. So I have very few bottles just for like display and such. Clothing is totally up to you and what you want, but I do recommend having a footed sleeper, preferably with built-in mitts, just to dress them in for storage, and with a hat. This is probably the most scatterbrained video that has ever been made, but that's okay. I think what else? Oh my gosh, my cat is freaking out right now. She's like, you're talking and you're not talking to me. Well, that's about all I can think of right now, so just leave a comment or send me a message on Instagram, MZ's Reborns, all one word, if you have any questions, and I would be glad to help. So I'll talk to you guys later.